Forget the all-new Volkswagen Golf. This could be the most important model for the Volkswagen range in decades. It's the all-new Volkswagen T-Cross, a compact SUV that sits at the bottom of its SUV ladder, and it competes with the likes of the Hyundai Kona, Kia Seltos and Mitsubishi ASX. It launched in Europe late in 2018, so it's been around for a while, but this is our first chance to drive it in Australia. So it's new to us, and in this review we're going to cover off all the essentials like pricing, value for money, practicality, safety and of course how it drives. But first, maybe we should size up this little tacker. And before I get to that, maybe you should hit like, hit subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget, hit the bell notification icon so you can stay up to date with all our latest videos. And don't forget, hit the CarsGuide site for my full detailed review. Now, let's take a look. The T-Cross is the smallest SUV that Volkswagen Australia currently offers. It's not to be confused with the T-Roc, which is slightly bigger than this car. It's based on the Golf, where this one is based on the Polo. But despite its diminutive dimensions, it still has some of those SUV styling cues that you would expect. There's some off-road elements, some ruggedness to it, of course, and this particular model has the R-Line exterior pack, which adds some sporty bits on the outside, and including those big 18-inch alloy wheels, and some nice elements on the inside too, but we'll get to that in a sec. As I mentioned, the T-Cross is based on the Volkswagen Polo, and it doesn't give much away when it comes to exterior size because it's just a few centimeters longer, but it is taller and wider as well, which helps when it comes to that inherent practicality you expect from an SUV. Now, I mentioned that it's a very practical small SUV. Let me show you. This boot is 385 litres of cargo capacity, which is pretty decent for a small SUV, about the same size as a small hatchback. And that actually increases considerably when you slide the seat forward. That's right, up to 455 litres in fact. And you can fold those seats forward if you're adventurous or you like to frequent IKEA, and you'll get 1,281 litres of cargo capacity. Now, let me show you that sliding back seat. It's pretty special. Backseat space in the Volkswagen T-Cross is really quite good. For the size of the car, there's plenty of room back here. This seat is set for me, 182 centimeters tall. That's 6 foot in the old money. And I've got plenty of space behind my own spot. I've got lots of knee room, lots of foot room, and plenty of headroom as well. Now, what happens if I slide the seat forward? Well, as you'd expect, things don't get quite as comfortable because my knees are pressed right up against the seat. But this might be the setup you use if you have young kids that are still in a capsule or a booster, and that'll mean that you get a bit more boot space and they don't need quite as much leg space as I do. So it's pretty good in that regard. It's a good compromise. In terms of other practicalities, there are dual map pockets. There are big door pockets, but they're a bit slippery, the plastic, and also it's a bit scratchy. There's no soft padding on the elbows back here either. There's no center armrest with no cup holders. So if you've got kids that want to keep hydrated on the road, they're going to have to use those big door pockets and things might get a little bit noisy. But they'll be happy because there are dual USB ports down here and a little storage pocket there as well. You might be wondering about this particular car, why it's so dark back here. There is window tint on the rear windows of this car and also a dark headliner, and that's part of a pack that this particular car has. You can read all about it in my review. Now, shall we check out the front? If you've sat in any Volkswagen model over the past 5 years or so, this isn't going to feel unfamiliar to you. But if you haven't sat in a new Volkswagen recently, welcome, because this is actually a really nice place to be. It's very well thought out, very ergonomically smart, and very well presented. Now let's go through the storage first. There's a pair of cup holders here. There's a center storage bin. You've got a glove box. You've got big door pockets, which are absolutely massive, but unlike some of the more expensive Volkswagens, they don't come with lining in them to stop things rattling around. But there's also a center storage pocket in front of the shifter, which is a wireless charger as well, which is excellent, plus 2 USB ports. So there's 4 USB charge ports connected for this car, which is excellent. And every T-Cross comes with an 8-inch touchscreen media system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Plus, you can also Bluetooth if you need to, and you can option a pack to get sat-nav if that's what you want. And that is what is fitted to this car, and it also includes the big digital driver information display and a Beats audio sound system, which is actually quite good. This car is also fitted with the R-Line pack, as I mentioned, and it gets the R-Line seat upgrade, so they look and feel quite good. There's sports seats in the style models, but there's also some other stuff like R-Line scuff plates and different pedals for the driver's feet. And it's all very nice, and there's a flat bottom steering wheel. Every T-Cross gets a leather steering wheel as well, and it all feels really nice and well put together up here. It's very impressive. Now, let's take a look at the model lineup. Opening the range is the 85 TSI Life. It lists at $27,990 plus on-road costs and gets plenty of good equipment for the money. Read the full review at the CarsGuide site for all the details. And then there's the model I'm testing, the 85 TSI Style. It looks a little different and costs a few grand more. A more powerful 110 TSI Style is due later in 2020 with a different engine and additional spec. We'll cover it off when it gets here. So what does 85 TSI stand for? It's the power output of the engine. Under the bonnet of the T-Cross 85 TSI is a 1-litre 3-cylinder turbo petrol. It's front-wheel drive only and has a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic as standard. Is that enough grunt? Well, let's take it for a drive. When it comes to the drive experience in the T-Cross, I mean, don't be surprised that it feels very similar to a Polo because it's got the same engine, the same transmission, the same underbody, and it's pretty much just a Polo that's been expanded for extra practicality. And that's not a bad thing at all. However, this model, which has the R-Line pack, which has those bigger wheels and doesn't do anything to the suspension to adapt to those bigger wheels, does ride a little bit coarsely. It's not uncomfortable, but it is a little bit sharp over bumpy sections of road, particularly sharp edges. But having said that, any small SUV with big wheels and low profile tyres will feel a little bit crunchy over sharp edges. So it's not unique in that regard. But it is unique in the way that it drives because it drives like a Volkswagen, and that means that it feels bigger and somehow more substantial than it actually is. The ride comfort, excepting those big wheels, is generally really good. I've done several hundred kilometers in this car already, and I can tell you that over country roads, it's really composed. It feels like a bigger small SUV than it is. And the steering too is light and very city friendly, but at higher speeds it also has a nice amount of weight to it, so you can push through corners without too much fuss. I'm going slowly through this one because I'm still in town, but at higher speed it's also quite enjoyable. And that's despite the fact that it's got a torsion beam rear suspension. There's no independent rear suspension in this car, so it doesn't quite have the road holding capability, and there's no all-wheel drive either, so it's not big on traction, but it doesn't really feel like it needs to be because it's pretty well sorted in general. Generally, the refinement is quite good. There is just a touch of wind noise and some road roar, but pretty much every Volkswagen, Audi or Skoda that's built on this same MQB platform does suffer from road roar, particularly on coarse chip roads like I'm driving on now. Now, a 1-litre 3-cylinder engine doesn't seem like a lot, but it's turbocharged, so you get the turbo whoosh from the mid-range, and 200 newton meters is a lot for a car of this size, so don't be surprised that it does have a decent amount of kick to it. Although at low speeds and in traffic and stop-start sort of situations, you will find that the throttle response is doughy, and that can make it feel a bit sluggish taking off from a standstill. That, in combination with the dual-clutch automatic transmission, doesn't make for the most simple takeaways from standstills. But having said that, it is still really nicely sorted when it comes to the engine and transmission. So if I put my foot down now, it does throw me back in my seat a little bit, and there is enough grunt for a car of this size, but also it's surprisingly refined for a 3-cylinder turbo. There's not too much noise from it, and it's pretty responsive. On my drive, I've experienced a few steep uphill climbs, and yeah, it can feel like maybe you would want just a touch more grunt. But if you do want more power, there's good news on that front, because there's going to be a more powerful 1.5 litre 4-cylinder version of this car. It'll cost a bit more, but it's going to give you more thrills, if that's what you want. You might be wondering about ownership prospects for the T-Cross. It has a 5-year warranty and cap price servicing, and you can either prepay or pay as you go for maintenance too. Read the review to find out just how much more affordable a pre-purchase plan is. Volkswagen Australia may be late to the small SUV party, but let me tell you, they've been fashionably late with the T-Cross, because it's an impressive compact SUV, one that is probably amongst the best in the class in overall terms. Now, tell us what you think in the comments section below, whether you agree with that or you choose something completely different. Be sure to let us know. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget, hit like, hit subscribe, share this with your friends, and also don't forget to hit that bell notification icon so you can stay up to date with all our latest videos. You might be wondering what score I've given the T-Cross. Well, here it is.